Hi, my dears. Today, I am deeply troubled by the ongoing conflict between Iran and Israel because so many innocent lives are being lost, children and women alike. It's heartbreaking to see the pain and suffering this war is causing to those who have no part in the violence. With that, let's begin the story. Part 1. The tension is rising. What if the world was on the edge of a decision that could change the course of history? A decision that could send shockwaves through the Middle East and perhaps the world? As tensions between Israel and Iran intensify, many are asking, could Israel strike Iran? Could this long-standing conflict reach a boiling point where military action becomes inevitable? The Middle East has always been a region of conflict, where every move is watched closely by global powers. But this current situation, this moment, feels different. The stakes are higher, and the consequences could be even more far-reaching. Israel, with its unwavering stance on security, has long seen Iran's nuclear ambitions as an existential threat. And Iran, with its revolutionary mindset and defiance of Western pressure, has no intention of backing down. This isn't just a game of military might. It's a battle of ideologies, of survival. As the world holds its breath, the question lingers. Could the unthinkable happen? Could Israel take that bold step? The world is watching, and every action, every word, could be the spark that ignites this powder keg. The greatest glory in living lies not in never falling, but in rising every time we fall. Nelson Mandela. What will Israel rise to do? Part 2. The Prophecies of Power. Before we dive into the heart of the question, could Israel strike Iran? Let us take a moment to glance back through the annals of history. The Middle East has long been a stage for dramatic and violent conflicts, shaping the geopolitical landscape of the entire world. We've all read about the wars, the invasions, the bombings, and the temporary ceasefires. This region has known more than its fair share of tragedies. Yet it is also a place where the world's most important lessons have been learned. Every war, every battle, every negotiation is a story of survival and power. But the question lingers. What happens when two powerful forces in this ancient land clash? The consequences aren't just felt in that moment. They echo across generations, leaving scars that last far longer than the smoke of battle. And now, the game has changed. Gone are the days when the battles were about territory, ideology, or control over oil. We now live in an age where nuclear weapons, with their devastating potential, have entered the equation. Imagine for a moment, Israel, a country shaped by its survival instincts, by the thousands of years of history carrying the weight of its people's dreams and nightmares, now stands at a precarious crossroads. They've fought wars before. They've battled for their very survival on the blood-stained fields of history. But this threat? This isn't just about military power anymore. This is a fight to protect their very future. This time, it's nuclear. This time, if they fail to act, the cost could be more catastrophic than anything they've faced before. In the middle of difficulty lies opportunity. Albert Einstein. And here lies Israel's moment. This is their chance to prove to the world that they are not just survivors of history's violence, but a force that can shape the future, no matter how high the stakes. The weight of their past struggles fuels their resolve. But will it be enough to face this unprecedented danger? As Israel watches Iran's nuclear advancements, the situation becomes even more complex. They understand that every move they make could tilt the balance of the region, and perhaps the world, into chaos. Israel has always been a nation marked by resilience. But as they look at Iran's growing nuclear capabilities, the threat is no longer something they can ignore. Iran's nuclear ambitions are no longer just a political talking point. They have the potential to change the balance of power forever. For Israel, the thought of a nuclear-capable Iran is not a hypothetical situation. It is a nightmare they cannot afford to entertain. The moment is tense, but this is where things get even more gripping. Will Israel strike preemptively to eliminate the nuclear threat before it becomes a reality? Or will diplomacy step in, offering a glimmer of hope for peace? These are the questions that haunt Israel's leaders, and each day that passes without a decision only brings them closer to a terrifying tipping point. The only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing. Edmund Burke, the stakes have never been higher, and yet Israel's dilemma is painfully clear. Every move they make must be calculated with surgical precision. A single misstep could have catastrophic consequences, not just for Israel, but for the entire Middle East and the world. The political climate is a battlefield of its own. Israel knows this well. Diplomacy can only go so far. Sometimes, the power to protect one's future requires the willingness to act decisively in the face of danger. The pressure on Israel's leadership is immense. They have always relied on intelligence, military strength, and diplomacy to navigate the countless challenges they've faced over the years. But now, with Iran racing ahead with nuclear technology, the options are limited. The question is no longer about if they will take action, but when and how much risk they are willing to take. Do they risk starting a war by striking preemptively, or do they hold out for a diplomatic solution that may never come? Every day that passes, the world grows more impatient. The possibility of a military strike looms larger with every passing moment. Sometimes the hardest thing and the right thing are the same. Unknown. And in this high-stakes game, Israel finds itself balancing on a knife's edge. They must act. There is no room for hesitation, but every choice brings with it the weight of history. Every action could change the course of the Middle East. But will diplomacy win out? Or will the urgent need for security push Israel into a bold, possibly irreversible move? In the dark corridors of Israel's defense ministries, in the war rooms where the fate of nations is often decided with a single phone call, the tension is unbearable. The next move could define not just the future of Israel, but the future of the entire world. Iran, with its nuclear ambitions, is a force that cannot be ignored. Yet, Israel must ask itself, will a military strike give them peace, or will it only ignite a firestorm that engulfs the region? Every decision feels like a gamble, a test of their strength and resolve. The delicate dance between power and restraint is what defines Israel's leadership right now. Every second spent in indecision only fuels the urgency. The questions echo in the halls of power. How much risk is too much? Will history remember this as the moment that Israel chose its survival, or as the moment that they crossed the line into an irreversible conflict? This is Israel's prophecy of power, a prophecy written in blood and perseverance, forged in the fires of war, and now, as they stand at the crossroads of this nuclear dilemma, they must once again face the greatest test of their leadership. The greatest glory in living lies not in never falling, but in rising every time we fall. Nelson Mandela. Israel has fallen before, but each time it has risen stronger. Will this moment be the one that shapes their destiny, or will it be a lesson in humility? Only time will tell, but for now, Israel faces its biggest challenge yet. And in this moment, the world watches, waiting to see what the next move will be. Part 3. The sabers are rattling. Picture this. The world is fast asleep, unaware of the storm quietly brewing behind closed doors. In the quiet halls of Israel's military command, a silent war is raging. The ticking of the clock, the soft hum of strategists at work, the low murmur of discussions. Every second is precious. The weight of the decision before them is almost unbearable. Israel knows, deep down, that they must act, but the price of action could be catastrophic. The tension in the air is palpable. Each choice could tip the scale from a cold war of words to an explosive, all-out war. The stakes have never been higher. Israel has been watching Iran for years, studying their every move, anticipating their next step, analyzing every development in Iran's nuclear ambitions. The plans have always been in motion, carefully crafted, slowly evolving. But now, Israel finds itself at a crossroads. It's one of those rare moments in history when the path ahead is shrouded in uncertainty. Israel's military has always been sharp, always ahead of the game in strategic planning and military prowess. But this is a whole new ball game. The question is, can Israel afford to sit back and wait, or is this the moment to act, to strike before the threat becomes too big to manage? The walls of the war room grow heavy with silence as Israel's leaders gather. The decision must be made now. What if? The phrase hangs in the air, heavy with the fear of regret. What if Israel waits too long? What if Iran's nuclear program reaches a point of no return? But then, what if they act too quickly, launching a preemptive strike that ignites a war they may not be able to control? The difference between a hero and a coward is the courage to act when others hesitate. Unknown, the question echoes in the minds of those gathered. Who will have the courage to make the call? In this moment of crisis, will they be heroes stepping into the breach to defend the future, or will hesitation win, and in doing so, doom them all? The room hums with quiet intensity as the decision-makers gather, each one feeling the immense weight of their position. They have been through wars before, but this is different. This isn't just another conflict. This is an existential battle. A battle for the future of Israel, the future of the Middle East, and perhaps the future of the world. It's as if the very air has thickened with the tension of unspoken fears and desires. Everyone knows that if Israel moves, the world will be thrown into chaos. But it's not just about Israel anymore. The entire region, with its fragile alliances and long-standing animosities, is perched on the edge of a cliff. A single move could send the world spiraling into a firestorm. The thought of it is almost too much to bear. But Israel knows this is the moment. This is the crossroads. This is the point of no return. In war, there are no unwounded soldiers. Jose Naroski. No matter which path Israel chooses, it will not emerge unscathed. The consequences of this decision will be far-reaching, echoing in every corner of the globe. But the weight of history demands action. The world is watching, waiting to see if Israel will step up or fall into the shadow of indecision. Suddenly, the decision is made. The room goes quiet, all eyes on the leader who has given the green light. They've made the call. Israel's elite air force is mobilized. The fighter jets, equipped with some of the most sophisticated weapons in the world, are ready. They've been trained for this moment, prepared for years, honing their skills to perfection. Their mission is clear: destroy Iran's nuclear facilities before the threat becomes too great to manage. Courage is not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it. Nelson Mandela, in the dead of night, as the world sleeps unaware, the roar of fighter jets tears through the silence. The engines scream through the dark sky, cutting through the clouds like a blade through the air. It's a sound that will forever be etched in the history of warfare. The world will wake up to a new reality, a reality where a single decision, a single strike, changes everything. As the jets streak across the sky, the question lingers, is this the right choice? Is it the beginning of the end or the end of the beginning? Only time will tell, but one thing is certain. This is a moment that will forever shape the course of history. Israel has made its move. The world will never be the same. The most difficult thing is the decision to act. The rest is merely tenacity. Amelia Earhart. And in that moment, as the jets soar towards their target, the fate of the region, the fate of Israel, and perhaps the fate of the entire world hangs in the balance. Every moment that passes brings them closer to the unknown, to a future that can't be predicted. As the missiles close in on their target, the world braces itself. The chains of history are rattling, and no one knows exactly what will happen next. The strike could set off a chain of events no one could predict. Could this be the spark that ignites a war that engulfs the region? Or will it be the necessary action that prevents a greater catastrophe? In this moment of absolute uncertainty, Israel has made its decision. There is no turning back. The sabers are rattling, and the world waits to see how the story will unfold. Part 4. The Aftermath. A world forever changed. The moment has arrived. The missiles launch. The world, collectively holding its breath, watches as Israel's airstrikes slam into Iran's nuclear facilities. It is a thunderous roar that shakes the very foundations of the Middle East. The world is on the edge of its seat, watching, waiting. The sky above the Middle East flashes with fire, the ground below trembling as the initial shock waves ripple outward. As the dust settles, the enormity of the situation becomes clear. Israel has acted. And now, there's no going back. For a brief moment, the world holds its breath. But soon, the reality sets in. Iran retaliates. The skies over Tehran darken with the smoke of anti-aircraft fire, and the sound of explosions shakes the capital. Across the region, shock waves reverberate. The entire Middle East is engulfed in chaos, as tensions that have been simmering for years finally boil over into full-scale conflict. Israel's military might has struck the heart of Iran's nuclear program. But what now? The consequences of this move are not confined to just one nation. This strike will have far-reaching effects that could reshape the world order. In the middle of difficulty lies opportunity. Albert Einstein. The question on everyone's mind: will this spark peace or will it ignite an all-out war? The United Nations scrambles to intervene, but the urgency of the situation makes clear that no one can predict how the situation will unfold. As the global community rallies, the question persists: can diplomacy work in the wake of such devastation? Or has Israel's strike set the stage for a conflict that will spiral out of control? The global markets tremble as the ripple effects of the strike hit economies worldwide. Oil prices skyrocket as supply chains and shipping lanes in the Middle East become vulnerable to disruptions. Countries around the world, particularly those in the West, hold their breath, unsure of what steps to take next. The markets are reacting to the uncertainty, unsure of whether this is the beginning of a new war or the start of a fragile peace. It's a pivotal moment in history, as the actions of one nation threaten to send the world into a spiral. But it's not just the markets that are shaking. Alliances begin to shift. Countries with long-standing ties to Israel begin to take sides. In the Middle East, the map begins to change, with new alliances forming and old ones fracturing. The delicate balance of power that has held this region together for decades is now in jeopardy. It's a dangerous game being played out, and the stakes are higher than ever. The balance of power in the entire region, and indeed the world, hangs in the balance. The hardest thing and the right thing are the same. The unspoken truth. Israel, in its bid for security, has taken a step that will change the course of history. But was it the right choice? Did they make the right move in the face of growing uncertainty? In the heat of battle, it's easy to believe that your decisions are justified, but time has a way of revealing the true cost of those actions. Israel's leadership, now forced to watch as the aftermath unfolds, must wrestle with this question. Did they ignite a fire that cannot be put out? The world will never be the same. This strike, this moment in history, has already left its mark. The ripples of this decision will be felt across generations. The consequences will not just impact Israel or Iran, but every single person on this planet. The balance of power, the future of global security, and the fate of millions of lives are now at stake. This moment will shape the future, defining the next chapter in the saga of the Middle East, but also in the story of human history. Sometimes, you have to make a choice that you know will have consequences, but you have to make it anyway. Unknown. And now, the world stands at a precipice. Israel has made its move. The storm is beginning to unfold, and the consequences are inevitable. What will happen next? The next steps, the next decisions will determine whether this is the beginning of peace or the start of an even greater conflict. Can the international community step in and bring stability to the region? Or is this a fire that will burn out of control? As the world holds its collective breath, the weight of this decision is crushing. In the midst of this uncertainty, one thing is clear. History will look back on this moment as a turning point. The consequences of this decision will echo through time. Will they lead to peace, or will they ignite the spark that sets the entire world ablaze? Israel, in its bold move, has shaped the future. And now, the world watches as the aftermath unfolds, knowing that nothing will ever be the same again. The next move, the next decision, could very well determine the fate of millions. The world has been changed irrevocably by this moment, and as the dust settles, the world will wonder, was this the right choice? Part 5. The Future of the Middle East. So what's next? In the wake of Israel's bold and world-altering decision, where does the future lie? The missiles have launched, the retaliation has begun, and the region is in chaos. But as the dust settles and the smoke clears, the real question emerges. Will the world recover from the shock waves of such a powerful decision? Will the decision made by Israel, which has sent ripples throughout the entire globe, be the catalyst for peace, or will it sink the Middle East into an endless cycle of conflict, further complicating a region already mired in historical wounds? Israel's decision to strike has forever altered the course of history. They could have chosen the path of diplomacy, perhaps waiting for negotiations to prevail. But instead, they chose to fight. They chose to protect their future, not just for today, but for generations to come. The weight of this decision is far from light, and its ramifications will be felt for decades, if not centuries. It is a moment that will be dissected by historians, by world leaders, and by citizens who witnessed it unfold. Israel's leaders, in this moment, have carved their names into the annals of history. The future belongs to those who believe in the beauty of their dreams. Eleanor Roosevelt. In this new future, however, the question arises, what will Israel's role be? Will they be seen as the protector, the brave nation that stood against what they saw as an existential threat? Or will they be seen as the aggressor, the nation that struck first and triggered a chain of events that couldn't be undone? What Israel does next will shape the world's perception of its future, its place in the Middle East, and its relationship with other global powers. The road ahead is paved with uncertainty, but Israel's actions will set the stage for its destiny. But Israel is not facing an easy opponent. Iran is no weak adversary. If anything, Israel's strike will only fuel Iran's resolve. Iran's leadership has long prided itself on its defiance of the West, its resilience in the face of sanctions and isolation. This move by Israel will only bolster Iran's nationalist sentiments and rally the nation under a common cause. The strike could be seen as an affront to Iran's sovereignty, and that, more than anything, is something that Iran's leadership cannot and will not ignore. The decision to strike will likely awaken a renewed sense of unity in Iran, leading to heightened tensions across the region. Once again, the Middle East finds itself at a crossroads. This is not just another chapter in a long history of conflict. This is a defining moment. The stakes are higher than they have ever been before. The consequences of Israel's decision may not only affect the future of Israel and Iran, but could also have repercussions far beyond the region. The Middle East has always been the crucible where global powers clash, but this time, the world is watching more closely than ever before. What happens next will define not only the region, but the entire international system for years to come. The only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing. Edmund Burke. And so, as the dust settles and the echoes of war grow distant, the world must ask itself, what is its role in all of this? The international community has always played a delicate role in the Middle East, sometimes as a mediator, sometimes as a bystander. But now, with the situation on the brink of spiraling out of control, the world cannot afford to stand idly by. The United Nations, European powers, Russia, China, and the United States all must take a stand. The future of the Middle East is no longer just a regional concern. It is a global one. The world's role is clearer than ever. It must be a part of the solution or risk being complicit in the ongoing chaos. But even as the international community tries to assert itself, one thing is certain. The Middle East will never be the same again. The war that may follow, the alliances that may shift, the wars that may ensue, all of this will change the way the world views power, security, and sovereignty. Countries across the globe will need to reconsider their strategies, their relationships, and their roles in global affairs. Israel, Iran, and the Middle East are at the center of a storm that could reshape everything. Peace is not the absence of conflict, but the ability to cope with it. Unknown. Israel, Iran, and the world are now locked in a game of high-stakes diplomacy, military strategy, and ideological warfare. The future of the Middle East, once again, is in the balance. As this new chapter unfolds, the only certainty is that nothing will ever be the same again. But what will emerge from the ashes of this conflict? Will it be a new era of peace? Or will it mark the beginning of a larger, uncontrollable war? For now, Israel's role is clear. It must navigate a world forever changed by its actions. Iran's role is equally clear. It must react and defend its sovereignty at all costs. And the world? The world must watch closely, as the next steps taken by these nations will shape the global landscape for generations. With that said, thanks for watching, and until next time.